Hello, guys. My name is Mark, and now you're in Sherta for another podcast episode. Today's podcast is entitled Kwaresma, Finding Hope, because today our topic is all about Lent and finding hope. And I'm with.
Hi guys, I'm Kim, your other host for this podcast.
Now let's first discuss what's Lent and what are the things we do during Lent. Well, first, Lent is a period of penitence and fasting for us Christian people. It is very important to be commemorated because it is where people remember the sacrifices that Jesus did for us.
In addition, Lent lasts for 40 days, excluding Sundays up to Easter Sunday, remembering the 40 days that Jesus fasted in the desert.
Hey Kim, what do you and your family do during Lent?
We actually do a lot more. We do almsgiving and do visita iglesia.
Visit a iglesia? Is this where you go to different churches to pray, right?
Yeah, that's it. We also do fasting and abstinence, stations of the cross and processions. How about you, Mark? What do you and your family do during Lent?
Well, we have this tradition wherein we put palaspas on the door. We do pabasa and salubong.
We also pray a lot during this time. I remember when I was still a child, I got so bored with how long these prayers are. But now I have understood the significance of these things. I actually make sure not to miss any of it.
And that's actually one of the reasons why we did this podcast. It is because we want to encourage young people like us to participate in these things. Now, we actually have a letter from one of our listeners that really fits into our podcast today.
So now we're going to read letters that were sent to us by our listeners regarding about their personal experiences and how they cope up with life.
And let's start our share talk.
Our letter for today is from an anonymous subscriber. So I guess let's begin.
Alright? I am now going to read the letter. I just want to share my personal experience that made me into becoming a person I am today. That can also serve as a lesson for others as well. It was a few years back when I started to feel like a whole different person. At first, it was just a simple change in my routine that was almost unnoticeable. I was starting to lose appetite. It was getting hard for me to start my day or to even get up from bed. I was an achiever once, but eventually I stopped attending my classes and I started to feel lazy. It's like I am procrastinating everything. I was once a ball of sunshine, but I started to stop engaging from people or attend social events. And I was completely pulled away from everything that I had been doing before. I feel like I didn't belong anywhere. And I completely lost interest from everything. And I even stopped going to church. There was a moment where I wasn't really talking to God. That journey of mine was so difficult that I was at that point that I was fantasized harming myself. And it took over everything. Every thought that went through my head was, how could I escape? Or how could I make this stop? I got so comfortable in the darkness that the darkness became my home. It was so bad that it reached the point where my parents have to intervene and said that we were going to the hospital, which was probably one of the hardest moments of my life. I can't imagine it was any easier for my parents. And there was where I had a realization that I needed help. I read a book once at a time, and until now I can still remember the exact words that was written. It said that, I want to live. There is so much more. I want to live. I am worth healing. I want to live so I can love and be loved. I want to live. My life is not over. I started to dive deeper into my relationship with God, and I was able to find some healing and reconciliation. I was able to look back to what I have gone through and see that the Lord, didn't leave me. Looking back, I know if I was truly alone and if He wasn't beside me, I probably wouldn't be here. So I started to reconnect again, especially within the church. And I know I will make through this because He is always going to be there to listen and be there with open arms. I hope that we will all remember that God will always be there for us because in the midst of our silent battles, there will always be hope, and that hope is with God.
Wow. It was such a heartfelt letter, don't you think?
Yeah, it was, Kim. And I think it made us more open to the topic that life is really beautiful. But sometimes, life can be beautifully complicated. This story can be an eye opener for everyone that finding hope in God is never ever too late.
God really help us at all times, right?
Yes, Kim, I agree. Even at the times when we are helpless and hopeless, there will always be Him that will listen to our cries.
God help us in a way that sometimes we question Him, but His plans for us is greater than we want and wish for.
Kim, at some point in your life, did you ever question the love of God for you?
I did, to be honest. There were some instances where I actually gave in to negative thoughts that has strained my relationship with God. And I think there are people out there who has similar experiences like that. Let me just share what it got to that point. It's when I was rejected by someone that I truly love. I really love this girl, that I courted her. I was always praying to God for her to be mine, but she chose
Aww.
someone else. And she said that the guy was better than me when I confessed my love for her. I was really heartbroken at that time. Now, that I think about it, it was actually pretty stupid. But hey, that was like when I was 13. It was like the first time I ever had feelings for someone, and I was pretty intense about it.
That's actually a sad moment, Kim, because I remember you moping for this girl for a few weeks. But hey, I never really thought about it, that it was that deep.
I actually consider it as a blessing because even though I was rejected by that girl, I would have meet my girlfriend who made my life amazing. I have prayed for this to meet someone who is going to love me for who I am. My girlfriend used to be my best friend, and now I only see my future in her. God do truly answer your prayers. You just have to trust and have faith.
I agree. We really need to trust God at all times.
Mark, what do you do to strengthen your relationship with God in times when you are distant from Him?
For me, Kim, in times like that, I read the Bible, of course, and pray to talk to Him. It's like this is how I cope up with all the problems in my life because God is always there to listen to you, to guide you, and to protect you. I remind myself of all the sacrifices that Jesus did for me. Like, what are we doing right now during Lent season?
All the fasting and prayers that we do during Lent are nothing compared to the sacrifices of Jesus.
And that's why it is very important for us to commemorate Lent.
And always remember that God is always with us, even in our darkest times that we feel like we're completely alone.
And that's all for our podcast for Kwaresma, Finding Hope.
Thank you for listening.
And once again, we are
The Shirt